Hi, I'm Steve Maskery and welcome to workshopessentials.com. If you have a planer thicknesser or jointer, then you'll know how important it is to have sharp knives. And I'm a bit annoyed because I've just nicked a pair of knives that have not been in the machine very long. They're not dull, but they're nicked. I've hit something hard. Rather than having them reground yet again, I've decided to try and hone out the nick. It's not very big, but it's there and it bugs me. So I made a little jig, and it consists of a bed with 2 angled sides and a wooden clamp with 3 screws through it. And my knives can sit in there at an angle. They're set at 42 degrees, which is 2 degrees more than the angle at which they're ground. And this way, it means I know I'm going to get my stone right on the very edge of the blade. So we just need to screw the clamping bar down. And they are now held securely. So I can either rub a stone over them, or if I've got a lapping plate, I can turn them upside down and rub them backwards and forwards on that. And this is how I made it. Now I'm going to rip this bevel on my table saw. So that's set to 42 degrees. I've set my fence up on the left hand side. And that's so that the offcut doesn't get trapped between the blade and the fence, which is a source of potential kickback. Kickback's also reduced by using a short fence, so once the workpiece gets beyond the end of the fence, then the cut's complete. There's plenty of room. It's not going to get trapped between the blade and the fence. I've also had to take my Suva guard off because it's normally clamped at this corner and given support by this little shoe in my fence. But when the fence is on this side, of course, it's not doing anything, and it waggles about too much, and I don't like things waggling about while I'm using my table saw, thank you very much. So I've taken that off, and instead I'm going to use my magnetic standalone guard, which goes on there. I can see what I'm doing, and I need a couple of push sticks, or one at least. Now this is the one I normally use, but it's too big to go under there. So I have a low profile version, which means I can get right in there without risking my fingers. And I think I'm ready to go. Switch on. Gear up. Away we go. Very nice. Now we need a tiny flat on the base for the knives to sit on. And it mustn't be wider, at least not much wider, than the knives themselves. So I'm going to see what that looks like. That'll do nicely. Now I've got to rip the side piece here so that those 2 bevels meet. Well, I've restored my saw to its more usual working position. I've got the fence on the right. I've got my zero clearance insert plate fitted, which gives me good support of the workpiece right up to the blade. And it also means that I can reinstall my super style guard, because now I've got some support for it on the fence. So that goes there, and a pin keeps it locked. And I can keep that parked out of the way while I make adjustments and then lower it down when I need it. So I think I'm ready to go. Now I haven't got very much room under here, so does that one fit? Oh, it does. Now they should fit together very nicely to support the blade. Like that. Now this is what it looks like when it's glued up, and as you can see the knives sit in there very nicely. But I have a problem. I can run my hands along there and not get cut, and that's because the sides are too high. There's just they're a little bit proud of the knives, and it should be the other way around. So I'm going to fix that by feeding this through the thicknesser.
Now I know it seems daft, but when I made a clamping plate with beveled edges to match the bed of the jig, it didn't seem to sit very well on the knives. So I've rounded over the edges of this clamping plate, and that way it makes a single line of contact all the way down the length of the knife.
Right, well I've cleaned up the length and drilled 3 holes in the clamping plate. It must be countersunk because the screws have got to end up well and truly clear of the stone. So the knives just sit in there. Like that. And you can see that the clamping plate sits on the knives rather than on the bed. So I've got some screws. And we are ready to go. They look very nice indeed. Well, this does look excellent, I have to say. I'm very pleased. I won't know until I actually come to fit them, but I think that's probably the sharpest they've ever been in their lives. There are more details about this jig in British Woodworking Magazine, issue 14. And if you'd like more excellent workshop jigs and accessories, then go to workshopessentials.com. Thank you for watching. For British Woodworking Magazine and workshopessentials.com, I'm Steve Maskery. Enjoy your workshop.